to start with the first question. First question regarding your rights and responsibilities with an HOA. Okay? Perfect. This is what we came for, right? Excellent. Okay. The first question is it legal or not to block the entrance to a community if the residents have not paid their maintenance fees to the HOA? Okay, en español, ¿es legal bloquear la entrada de un fraccionamiento, de una comunidad, si no se han pagado las cuotas? Bien. Voy a pasar el micrófono al licenciado Marco Aurelio, ya que él tiene algunos comentarios que hacer al respecto. I'm going to pass the mic to Mr. Marco Aurelio. Thank you very much.
Bueno. Sí. Sí. Buenos días. Cuando todos los fraccionamientos son fraccionamientos, no hay fraccionamientos privados.
Okay. There are no private house developments. All of them are public. There are no private house developments. Fraccionamientos.
Precisamente porque las vías públicas son entregadas al ayuntamiento, son públicas, tienen que ser un área común de acceso. Las asociaciones no pueden apropiarse de las calles y no pueden cobrarles la entrada.
These are public roads, so it is illegal that an HOA blocks the entrance. The public roads belong to City Hall.
La alcaldesa y la ciudadanía no está en contra de que las asociaciones y los fraccionamientos tomen como medida de seguridad el tener un control de acceso.
The city mayor does not consider correct or legal to have restrictions to enter these house developments. Okay, we have our first question here.
We're not talking about streets. We're talking, for example, a condominium, a building. This is not a public road.
Yes, the problem is that some HOAs, homeowner associations, are blocking the entrance to residents.
Yeah, there are communities that have roads, but for the most part, the condos are not.
Well, this is one particular case. Condominiums are private. Condominiums are private.
That's what we're talking about.
So we can't.
So back to the question.
As an example, so we can't.
So back
As
to
an
the question.
example, in Bahamar, they charge to enter and they charge for parking to a concert. Is that legal or not legal?
Bahamar is a condominium, so that is legal.
Bahamar is a condominium.
Yes, and it's private. So it is legal to charge.
Streets are not owned by the city.
But it says it's done in Rosarito.
Yeah, it's private. It's private.
Wait, I've got a quick question. Is this only Rosarito, or can people outside of the Rosarito area still be here? Because we're also having problems, but I guess we're covered by Ensenada.
Yes.
Is the law different in Rosarito than Ensenada?
No, not at all. Not at all. So these meetings are specifically for people from Rosarito. But if you can learn from these experiences and take them to Ensenada, to other places, then that's great.
So the law is the same?
The law is the same, yeah.
I'm trying to be recognized.
Yes, sorry.
I've had my hand up for 10 minutes here, okay?
Go ask the question.
Hot Delmar. All right. There, they repair their own roads. The government has never done anything on the road work there.
Where's that?
So they've always felt, and they've tried to work with the government, that It's their roads, and so the HOA is responsible. And that's why if they want to stop somebody from coming in there, then they can park outside and then they can walk to their house. They can't prevent them from going to their home, but they can't let them use the roads with their automobile to get there. Now, is that true?
Question.
Baja Del Mar? Is Baja Del Mar a condo association or
No.
AC?
It's homes.
AC.
It's a condominium. It's a condominium, so it's private. Baja Mar. Baja del Mar, sorry. Baja del Mar is private, it's a condominium.
Because the government, it used to be, the road that goes through there, it's on your sign to say evacuation. Are you kidding me? You guys shut it down. There's only one way into Reforma. Actually two, if you go through the power plant. So it's really interesting how you guys shut down that road.
What do you mean by
Can I
you guys?
respectfully suggest that you do your presentation first, and then maybe people who have questions after your presentation?
There's no
Especially if they're
presentation.
specific to their own unique
It's just
situation.
questions,
Maybe
yeah.
that would be the time for those questions.
Do you all agree with that?
And I do recommend that we differentiate between a fraccionamiento and a régimen de condominium, because that'll clear up the differences as the presentation unfolds.
Excellent. Okay, so first we're going to talk about the topic, and then you can go ahead and ask questions, okay?
Mira, me dijo mi Rubén que Melissa no ha pagado ni un penny desde que entró de asociación. Según ella iba a pagar 25%, según ella. La que no ha pagado es Isabel. Isabel no ha pagado. Isabel está en el...
Okay, please. Our legal advisor from City Hall, Juan Hernandez, is going to go ahead and give his topic.
Thank you. Hi, good morning. I hope my English can be more than enough to explain to all of you the condominium matter. Thank you. First of all, I repeat, I am Juan Antonio Hernandez F.R.A.O. I am in charge of the conciliatory office. It is in the third floor, office 317. Every one of you, if had more questions at the finish or later, you can come to my office, and I'm gladly be with you. For the first, we start
¿Y dónde está tu oficina?
third floor on City Hall. For the start, we have to know Juan Antonio Hernandez Alfaro. To know that the condominium matters, it's not only the state law, also it is the reglamento from the municipio, but we also have to review another different legal laws and reglamentos. One of those, it is the civil code. The civil code establishes a few rights for every homeowner because we have a special form according to the law. To review especially the state law, the condominium state law, because it is the most clear about what are your rights and also what are your obligations. In that part, the first thing that you should know are your rights and obligations that are included in Article 19 and 20 to the state law. In those articles, you can see what you can do and you cannot do in your condos. I mean, you are obligated to pay your fees, your HOA fees, but also you have rights like vote in the meetings, that you get a monthly balance for each unit, a different rights that it establishes in that law. It is important to know that, yes.
Perdón, de lo que dices de que tenemos la obligación de pagar el mantenimiento, pero cuando ya está terminado todo, o aún así cuando está construyéndose apenas, porque ahorita estamos nosotros en una área donde apenas se está terminando, empezando a construir la joya real, la joya excelente.
Just point of order for everybody. Let them do their presentation.
Thank you. Yes.
Then we'll call you for your questions.
Yes.
With such a large group, we gotta keep it down and we can't have side discussions going on while they're doing their presentation because people can't hear. No phone calls, turn all your phones either on vibrate or off. It's not a good idea to have them on and disrupt the meeting, but we want to get everybody to get their questions answered to the best ability, and some of you will need to go up to 317, the third floor, and talk to them in more depth.
Okay.
So it's basically in general.
It's a good idea.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I am saying this Article 19 says a few little things. Allow me to read it to you because you have to know this. The Article 19 says the condominium owner's rights are as follows. First, have respect for the other condominium owners at exclusive units. I mean, you have to be respected for each neighbor that you already have. Second, participate with voice and vote in the condominium general assemblies or extraordinary assemblies. Usually, or the main thing in here is when you go to those assemblies, some of you, you cannot vote or you're not allowed to speak. That is illegal. Everyone can vote, but you have a limitation in, everyone can speak, but you have a limitation in the voting. If you are not paying your monthly fees, you cannot vote. That's one thing that you should know. Also, you have the right to enjoy the benefits or the common areas. Usually says that when you stop paying your monthly fees, you cannot use a few common areas. That's illegal because you have to be respect in your private property. Your private property, it is your home and also the common areas. That's why you have to be allowed to use those common areas. Now, the Article 20 establishes this. The condominium owners in the general condominium residence shall not, first, perform any action that disturb the peace of the homeowners. That's really, really important because some people use the pool or whatever and then disturb the peace of the condo. That should be limited to the minimum. Usually in the interreglamentos for each condominio has a few rules about that. Maybe use the pool at 8 p.m. or 9 p.m., I don't know. Each condominio establishes his own rules because you already know what do you want to do in each condo. Also, even inside in your property have to have the peace. I mean, don't be loud with your music or something at night, usually at night, because some of the homeowners start a party or whatever, and then start with the loud music and don't let rest or let be in peace to your neighbors. That is not specifically illegal, but it is a violation for the interreglamento for each condominio and also for the state law. Also, every homeowner has the obligation to pay his fees. It doesn't matter if it's regular fees or extraordinary fees. If you, like already said, if you are not paying your fees, you cannot vote in the General Assembly or Ordinary Assembly. It doesn't matter. You have to pay. You cannot get any, I don't know, permission to not pay, you always have to pay. If you sell your unit, that debt keeps with the unit and have to pay it the next person who buys that unit. The debt always keep with the unit. That's why you also, and every time you have to pay, you cannot have any permission or whatever to not paying. That's an obligation for every one of you as a homeowners. Important thing to see or review, it is the faculties for the person who runs the administration from the home, the condos, because usually some administrators doesn't do or doesn't accomplish everything according to the law. I mean, a few administrators only get a balance, an annual balance, and that is not correct. Each administrator has to give to each homeowner, it doesn't matter if it is 10 or 100, has to give it to each homeowner a balance, a monthly balance. That is an obligation. If the administrator they don't do that, you can require it. His obligation is give it to you, that balance. Also, the administrator can make a few payments, a few repairments without consulting the General Assembly. But those payments, those expenses has to be only on emergency. If it is not an emergency, the administrator cannot have or cannot make any expense without the permission of the General Assembly. Usually, the administrator buys or make expenses without notifying to Assembly or the homeowners, and it is not correct. In that case, it is part of the job for the homeowners and also to the Vigilance Committee to ask to the administrator why he make that expense, why he buy that thing, whatever it is. Because the administrator has to report every single thing to the homeowners. That's one of the most of obligations that he has according to the state law. It is important for all of you to read the state law, specifically the state law, because in there you can find a lot of different answers to your each problems, but also you can find what are the obligations for the administrators. In the case of the administrators, I only tell you the most common things happens with those guys. But if you want to review every single obligation of the administrators, you can see it in the Article 45 of the state law. In there you can find the whole faculties and obligations that that guy has to accomplish in each condominium. In this part also it is important to say we have different kinds of administrators. One kind, it is a professional administrator, and another kind is a non-professional administrator. This is important because a professional administrator can be in his position as much as the homeowners wants, as much the homeowners want to keep it in his position, but has to be elected every single year. It doesn't matter if you elected in 2019, you have to elect it again in 2020, and so on. In the case of the non-professional administrators, it is different. The non-professional administrators has to be a homeowner. If it is not a homeowner, cannot be an administrator for that condo. That is a really important part. But also, it is important to say the non-professional administrators only can be in his position 3 years, maximum three years. At the 4th year, has to change in the case of non-professional administrators. I say this because usually not many people want to be an administrator. You don't get so many volunteers to be in those positions. That's a really big problem. But you also have to know it is against to the law staying there when you are a non-professional administrator more than 3 years. 3 years is the tops, and then you have to change. In the case of the Vigilance Committee, it is important also to say the Vigilance Committee, his function, essentially, it is like being the police. The Vigilance Committee always, it is in charge to review everything that the administrator does. If the administrator buys something or takes some action, it is the job of the Vigilance Committee to see that part it is legal, that part doesn't affect to the homeowners, that part doesn't affect to the balances, finances, and whatever that the homeowners has in his accounts, in his building, and everything. That is a really big job for the Vigilance Committee. It is important to say also that the Vigilance Committee has to be conformed by 3 or 5 persons. Those guys have to be one president of the Vigilance Committee. The president is the one who are going to review it and inform to the General Assembly if the administrator are doing well or are doing bad his job. Also, the president of the Vigilance Committee can make or can file a criminal case against an administrator in the case they know it committed fraud or another crime. That is a really big responsibility for the Vigilance Committee. In the case of the Vigilance Committee, about that, usually they try to be part of the same group. I mean, usually the volunteers for those positions are also the same persons every single year. In that case, at that point, you are a friend to the administrator or you are a friend for the Vigilance Committee. And that is a problem because sometimes the Vigilance Committee stops doing his job. And it is important and fair to say that once you finish your year being in the Vigilance Committee or in the administration, the next directors, I mean the next administrator, the next president of the Vigilance Committee can review your job, has to review the last year. It is part of their job. Once it changed the year, I mean 2000, you finish the 2019 period and start the 2020 period, those guys of the 2020 has to review everything of 2019. It is part of his obligation. If those guys doesn't do that and doesn't inform to the authorities, to the homeowners, to someone that the things are going bad, that means that they are they are agreed that everything that the last administration does, it was fine. They have, according to the state law, they have only 7 days to report those kind of matters. I mean, to report to the homeowners that the balances doesn't check, that the building is falling apart and the last administration doesn't do anything. That is part of the job of the Vigilance Committee, but also the administrator. But it is important to all of you know all of this because with this information you can ask to every one of your administrator or administrations, what do you do? What do you do to resolve this? Usually it is problems with the painting, with the pool, with the gates. And you can ask information all about that. And also, in the case of the General Assemblies, you cannot vote or discuss anything that is not enlisted in the agenda. once you get the agenda for the meeting, I don't know if it is ordinary or extraordinary, you cannot vote or discuss anything without being in that agenda. You only can vote and discuss that. If it is a different matter, has to be enlisted at the next meeting and cannot be voted. Because if you vote that, it is it is not a good agreement because it doesn't accomplish according to the law. Also, the way to call an assembly has a special way. The way to call assembly can do it through 3 different persons. The first one is the administrator. He is the one obligated to call an assembly. He has to, at minimum, call 2 general assemblies, 2 ordinary assemblies. But he can call the extraordinary assemblies as much as the homeowners want or as much as the condominium needs. And also, another person who can call a general assembly is the president of the vigilance committee. That guy also has the faculties to call a general assembly. And third, according to the law, the 20% of the whole community of the homeowners can call a general assembly. That it is a weird thing to happen. It is really rare, but it could happen. And you have to prove to the government, in this case to my office, that you guys are the one to call a general assembly are the 20% of the total of the homeowners. 25%, yeah. So, I'm sorry. And at last, it is important to everyone, you know, that in my office, you can file a complaint in order to get an arbitration. That arbitration usually resolves the problems against condominium, homeowner against another homeowner, or a homeowner against the administration. It doesn't matter if it's the administrator or the vigilance committee. Every one of you have that right to initiate those processes. That process, it is a fast way that you go to court, to the civil court, to resolve your problems. The resolutions for this office, it is like a sentence from the civil court. It is that big. We can resolve an arrest. We can resolve like with a fee for homeowners that doesn't respect the law. But we cannot do it because we think we need it in your home, in your complex, or in your condo. You have to come to us and file a complaint, because if you don't file a complaint, we cannot do anything. That it's really, really important, because sometimes we receive some criticism about that you don't do anything. Okay, yeah, because if I as a oficial conciliador go there and make a fine or whatever, I am not doing well my job because I don't have a complaint. Always we need a complaint, and then we can act as a government, as an office, and we are the special office to do all of this in the condominium matter.
Does it require an attorney, or can just an individual walk in and file a complaint?
You can do it yourself, but I always recommend you have an attorney, because the proper way to do it is put it in paper, and you have the formalism as you are going to file a complaint at the civil court, as you are going to sue someone. That's why I always recommend that you have to have an attorney with you. Yes.
Well, it's good to know everything you're telling us. The problem, this problem has existed for many years.
Yeah.
Things with the homeowners and condominiums. The thing was better when the arbitration department was erected or built, The problem now is that you are the lawyer of the presidency, but also the head of this department, you alone, and me as a representative of many homeowners have the same problem. If many cases came to you, you don't have the time to act in favor of us because you need more people. It's not your problem, I know, but it's a thing that can be fixed by the presidency, putting a person and personnel that has the power to act in all these problems, instead of taking the things for just one person that will take 2 weeks just to accept our complaint, and then another 2 weeks to have the process, and then another 2 weeks to solve it. So it's the same as going to the court, a civil court or a penal court.
It is a problem that because in my office, it's only me. I don't have more personnel or more people. It is really, really difficult. But we are part of the Dirección Jurídica. That's why we also being the lawyer about the presence or every other offices in the city hall. It is really big, it is really difficult, but we work as hard as we can. Some of you are being with me in the office. Some of you knows that we do anything as we can to help you, to make the things right, to enforce the law. I know some of the process can be more, can take longer than we want to, but we need more people, and that is not our decision. We asked it. We ask people, but we don't get it. We hope the next government help this office, and once they help this office, also those guys can help you guys as a homeowners. But it doesn't matter if we have persons or not. We are there to attend to all of you, to try to resolve his problems as fast as we can. And it doesn't matter if the next government put more people or not, they are obligated to resolve this matter. Yes.
Oh, go ahead.
Okay, so we just discussed condominium law. How about civil associations?
Okay, the civil associations has to be, because once the developer wants to make a building or a complex, they have to get a civil association first and then start the process with the city hall to get the permissions, the licenses, and whatever. But once the developer builds the condominium, that civil association only needed to get bank accounts and a few more permissions. But the right thing is the administration, the administrator, the vigilance committee, those are the ones who has to run the condominiums. Yes, you needed the civil association for those legal that paperwork, but the one that has to run the condominiums has to be the administration and the vigilance committee. First, yes.
I have two suggestions. One is, it's going to start with a question. Are you guys familiar with a meeting moderator? This idea of moderating your meetings. Is anyone here familiar with such an idea? You are? Okay. Yeah. My suggestion to you is this. This will help, especially Americans, because we're more linear in our thinking. Hire an independent or ask for a volunteer to be an independent moderator of these meetings so that you can stay on your agenda, so that you don't lose track. okay? That would be a really, really big help to everybody here because, you know, people get impatient, they get confused, they want to be heard. So please don't clap. Thank you, though. The second suggestion I have, and I actually I asked this of Gabriela a while ago, and I didn't get an answer. It's okay. She probably gets 1,000 emails a day, but people don't know who you guys are. From an organizational chart perspective, we would love to know, for example, what is the difference in scope of responsibility between the Rosarito municipal president and the mayor, just as an example. But if foreigners here could see an org chart of how your government is organized and who's responsible for what scope, you know, what scope, what's their influence, what they're responsible for, this would help us a lot because we would know where to go. Right now we go to FRAO for everything, and that's the initial filter, all right? But a lot of us get lost in the process because we're not clear on your organization, the government's organization. So those are my two suggestions: meeting moderation and producing an org chart that we can all read in English.
Bring that afterwards to them.
Okay.
We need to stay on point because there's so many people. Those are great ideas. Hang on just a second. But let's stay on focus with the HOAs and the condominiums for this meeting. You're going to have a lot of questions, so you're probably going to have to check back in with these people, and that's why you want to get their names and phone numbers. Shorty.
I actually wanted to say something. Thank you so much for your suggestion. Actually, I've been working on that along with the girls that are helping us with their internship. We created a list of all the departments of City Hall saying what they're in charge of. I showed it to the coordinator and he said it's not good enough. So we're still working on that. But thank you for your suggestion, and of course we'll have it finished. And I think we know all of us who is the mediator here.
Okay, question regarding, because we're focused on condominiums. There's a few of us that is in this meeting right now that live in La Mission, which the Frenchman or the community was formed in the 50s by the Stalker family. And since then, rules have been added in our community where if you don't pay the HOA fees, which our community didn't start out as an HOA, that you have to open up the gate yourself, or they lock you out of the community at nighttime at the back fence. They're starting to add rules where now if you want a building permit, you have to get it approved by them before you go to the city. Otherwise, it's not going to be, what do you call it, accepted. The whole thing is, how is the community of America forcing rules on us down here who are legally living in Mexico that is not, you can have an HOA, but you can't enforce these type of rules in a community that's public, with public roads.
Answering your question, every condo has the right to change your interreglamento. In the interreglamento, you can establish it if first your administration has to have the okay of the administration before you can build something. That's why I think in that case they ask to you all of that. But you can fight that because you cannot invent the rules and then establish it in your interreglamento and then enforce it. It is a process to do all of that. If you want to renew or get better your interreglamento, you have to enlist it in a general assembly and then vote it if you are okay or not, establish a new rule or modify the rule that already we had as a homeowner.
We were not a security community. We were not a gated community. Now we are. What's the legality of enforcing on public roads, telling people who can come in, who cannot come in, asking for your ID, writing down your personal information, and writing down your license plate numbers?
That's illegal. That's illegal because the only one who can enforce that, it's the government.
Now, we're at the problem right now that if we want to file a complaint, and this happened 2 years ago, people filed a complaint over it, and then both sides of the government, between Rosarito and Ensenada, pointed the fingers at each other that it's their problem. Where do we go?
In that case, we as a government, we are in middle of the battle against Ensenada for that limit. The fight in the Supreme Court starts at 2016. Once that fight starts there, the minister says to Ensenada and also Rosarito, you cannot do anything, any government move, anything in that place of land, because we are resolving this problem. Today, at 2019, they resolved that, but his resolution was, okay, your Congress has to make a new law and then establish the right limits for Ensenada, for Rosarito, for Tijuana, for everything. Once we get that, we can start to enforce our own laws.
So right now we're screwed.
Unfortunately, yes.
Let me just remind you that he has been talking about the state laws, and there's also the city laws that give you the guidance so you can create your bylaws. And he just said it that the administrator could be there for 3 years only, but all the homeowners have to decide on your bylaws. So it's not one person's show. You have to have your bylaws with you. You have to see what it says and what kind of illegalities have been happening, and then you can even call to a meeting or with the 25% and revise the bylaws.
I think I was next.
Go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Juan. I have a question to Juan. And it's regarding the monthly reporting to the homeowners, okay? Which is outlined in Article 45, Section 12, Area D. What I'd like to drill down on is, you say they got to give you beginning, ending balances. What do you suggest the best document should be provided to the homeowners to get that monthly balance? And I have one more question I'll ask you after you answer that question.
Okay, in that case in the case of the monthly balances, it is usually the accountant, those guys make his own formats and then send it to the homeowners. You as a administration, you are free to establish a model that I report this, but the main thing in that report has to be a clear report, because not everyone knows about numbers, and none of us are an accountant. That's why you have to put in that balance if you're how many fees you're paying or not, what is your debt, and what are the expenses of the administration, and if you had extraordinary fees, also establishes in there. That is usually the common thing in those balances.
If there's concern that those ledgers that they provide are inaccurate, what other document could we request and have rights to?
You as a homeowner has the right to ask all the documents that you think you need, but you have to make it in paper. You have to make it in writing, because if you ask me verbally, I can say, okay, yeah, tomorrow or the next week, and never give you anything, and you doesn't going to have any proof that you already asked that document.
And I appreciate that, and I don't want to interrupt you, but we're doing that. So is it appropriate for a homeowner to say, look, I don't believe these expenses, I want to see your bank statements?
Yes, you can do that. Yeah, because you as a homeowner, you are making
Is it required for them to show you the bank?
Yeah, they're obligated, yeah.
Okay,
Then what's the enforcement though? If they just say no and they just are you, what's the enforcement?
You have to file a complaint with us, and then we enforce that.
Hey, Juan, that answers my question, it's crystal clear. My other question is.
No, you gotta keep it short.
Okay.
Talk to them afterwards, because that's like 4 questions.
No, it was one. Thank you.
Well, one long one.
It was one.
And Baja was next.
Oh, I'm sorry, he pointed at me.
Who?
One.
Oh, well. She's been, I'm calling you that. She was patiently waiting.
You be next, don't worry.
Very quickly, very quickly, this is a tag on with what Mr. Rossi said. So I don't want to take up all the time because we are in the minority as far as.
Can you hear me?
Yeah. Our group is sort of in the minority, so we don't want to take up all your time. We are people who live in leased land, which is different from everybody else here with condominiums. My question is to you. You were quoting certain articles that were the law for the general group. Is there a particular article or law that the owners of leased land must follow and are obligated? Is there something separate that we need to address so we can look at it?
You're leasing in a condominium?
No, it's leased land, and they're all individually owned.
Compost.
Compost is the best way to do it.
The only thing irregulated is that it's the civil code. It is the only thing. If you want, we can review your case at the office in order to explain to you what your rights and obligations in that matter.
But is the owner, is there a particular article in the Constitution of the city law that pertains?
Civil code, and the civil code is really big. I cannot, I don't memorize every single article, but I can help you out if you came to my office.
Our concern is, in our new development, De Casa has not turned over the HOA, they have not provided any accounting, they won't respond to any of our questions. What recourse do we have?
You can start a process with us, an arbitration. That's why I was telling earlier, you have to file a complaint. But you have to do it through your lawyer, because your lawyer can know better how to express in paper what do you need, what do you asking for, and then we can resolve that.
So we have to hire an attorney first?
Yeah.
How much is a lawyer fee?
Depends of every lawyer.
Are your resolutions legally binding or?
Yes, it is. Yes.
In a dispute, it's legally binding?
Yeah.
Yeah, he said earlier, even up to arrest.
Okay, that's great.
Let me mention something about attorneys, please. We've had, again, so many complaints. There are attorneys that have charged $3,000, $4,000 in different cases and really have not delivered. So we get these complaints. They can't even get in touch with their attorney. It doesn't return phone calls or emails. So there are many, many honest attorneys. You can get the list, you can talk to them, and if you have any problem in case with Spanish, we can provide you with a translator to help you with it.
You young man with the green Hawaii
Well,
shirt.
it just feels good to know that we're not the only ones that are having problems with HOAs. Is it legal for the HOA board to have a bank account in the States?
No.
The state law or the Mexican law doesn't provide that. You can have it in here in Mexico or in US. We don't have any express article to you can provide that or you can dispute that in violation of any of our laws.
When you're saying no, and it's okay, or?
Yeah, it is okay, it's okay.
Oh, it's okay?
Yeah,
Why would they do
can
that?
have.
It's also an American corporation.
I don't know why. Usually, most of the condominiums has a bank account in U.S. We don't have any specific rule that deny that you can have an account in U.S. for the homeowners or the condominium.
Let me explain why they do that. It makes it easier for Americans to transfer money from an American bank account to an American-held HOA account, then move it over the border and bring it to Mexico. However, the biggest problem about this money situation is here in Mexico, they do not allow Americans to pay in pesos.
Yeah, they don't.
They demand it in dollar. And then they tell us if we want to pay it in peso, they're going to charge us 25 pesos to the
This is
dollar.
Mexico. We live in Mexico.
Yeah,
File with him.
I got it right here.
Go ahead.
So you earlier referred to people having access even if they have not paid their HOA fees in terms of the condominium. I understand that in terms of the homeowners. What about the homeowners' guests? Must the HOA provide access to guests of the homeowner when that homeowner is not paying their fee?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. FRAO posted the articles on their website, on Facebook. Couldn't download it. Can you post it so as an attachment or something so we can download and print the article? Thank you.
I have a question about the monthly fees. Because it's a gray area there. If the association wants to charge you more for illegal things, then you go to the court and deposit the money so you're current. But even though you're current, the association can tell you're not giving the money to me, so you're not paying. I will not let your inviters to go in, or I will not open the door for you. Everything. So, what's your criteria?
In that, everything that problem that you have to file a complaint with us, and then we can enforce to the administration that allows to your guest and your homeowner to use your facilities, your unit, your common areas, and everything.
Earlier you described that it was the administrator and the VC that were to govern the community, correct?
Right.
Is it legal when the board of the Association Civil is the one that's running in lieu of the VC? The VC is not existent, they're not operational. The AC's board has taken over governing the entire community. Is that legal?
In that cases, usually that happens that the same person that runs the AC, also it is the administrator of the condominium. The state law never talks about the AC, always talks about an administration. That's why you have to have an administrator and a vigilance committee. The AC, it is a different part of the condominium. That, in that case, if you don't provide it through your bylaws or your interreglamento, you can do it. But it is a different thing or are separate things. One thing it is the administration, and another thing is the civil association.
So I'm sorry, I'm not clear on the answer. Was that basically a yes or a no?
If in your bylaws if in the bylaws you say yes, that you can occupy the administration and also the president of the AC, yes, you can. If in your bylaws establishes the contrary, obviously you can't.
Can we get a copy of our bylaws because the administrator won't give?
You have to ask them.
They won't.
Ask other neighbors. Somebody's got to have one.
Urbano control.
I wanted to clarify my question about guests. This is a condominium association, therefore private, not public. So does your answer change because we have a legal opinion that says that we could restrict access of guests or homeowners that are in Russell?
Because if it is my unit, I have rights about that unit and also at common areas. That's why I can bring my guests and use those common areas and my unit, because are my guests. I am using my the right of private property.
Even though not paying the fee.
Yeah. Yeah, that in those cases you have to start a process in the civil court, because in the civil court allows to you to at the end of the case obligates to sell your unit, but it is a long process. It is only in that instance.
So it sounds like the ability to collect fees is really pretty weak.
It is hard, yes, it is hard.
Allow me to ask a question because it's been asked many times. It was sent to us. We've had quite a few people sending us email asking about this question, and I see there is concern. What can we do if our HOA does not want to listen to us? What power do we have? How can we go about looking at the books? How can we go about changing things? This is the main issue that made us bring this to being here, because we seem to have no rights over the HOAs that are being controlled by the constructor guy, whoever built the condos. And another question that we've had is, usually when 50% is sold, they should give back the rights to us as homeowners, and they are not doing it. What can we do to take this over? 25%. ¿Cómo podemos pedir nuestros derechos que no dan permiso para ver los libros, a ver cuánto estamos gastando, qué está pasando? ¿Con quién? Oh, okay. So the answer to that question, that how do we get control of our HOAs, is that you can actually put a complaint with his department. So, but I guess the way they want it is all to be legally written. So get yourself a decent, inexpensive lawyer and take care of this, if you can find one.
I would like to make a suggestion, and this is based on United States law, and having been in the real estate industry and how to make condo associations, civil associations, be completely transparent. It starts in the real estate process. When somebody makes an offer on the house, you make that offer on the house contingent on what's called a resale certificate. Resale certificate includes the HOA laws, the bylaws, the accounting for the last 5 years, and a health report for that HOA. There should be a central office where somebody can go in and get a copy of that and pay for it, so that that office is earning income. It builds up the confidence of foreigners who's coming in here. It makes HOAs be responsible within themselves. It makes homeowners ask for these documents, and it allows for buyers' income flow happens, and you don't have to get involved. It's a very simple office. It can be sent electronically. It can be sent by copies.
According to this law, that's supposed to be your office.
But it can be independent too. I mean, somebody here or somebody in the community can start a business doing that via a real estate office.
Let me express my opinion again, since I always do anyway. I think we always come back to this problem, that we need honest real estate offices, businesses. We do have so many good ones and some bad ones. For those of you that were here, when the immigration people were here, they clearly stated to you that you have to have at least a temporary residency, which the consular gives you. That gives you at least for 30 days, sometimes 90 days, before you can purchase anything. I've purchased, since 16 years ago, I bought houses and land here. Nobody has ever checked any documents from me. They took my money, they had me deposit money, and I took many Americans to buy, but I didn't know very much about the laws. So their only interest was to take the money. And we have this problem to this day in Rosarito. So many have purchased, Mexicans and Americans, that have not to this day, after years of having paid for the property, have not got their title. And they're Mexican citizens. So corruption does happen. Now, what this alcaldesa did, this mayor did for us, a few months back, with the help of the person that was here and a few other people, we had about 18 different colonias, sections, that were not what they called regular. They didn't have their titles and so forth, even though they were paid for. Even though they were paid for. From the 18, she went to Mexico City, and with the help of the local people, state people, and federal people, fixed it for 15 of them. But still there's 3 or 4 more colonias, including one of mine, that does not have their title, even though we've already paid for it. So please check, make sure real estates that you do business with are honest people, just like anything else, just like a mechanic, just like a whatever that complaints that we get every day in the office. As I said before, we get complaints from washer dryer guarantee not being fulfilled to $30,000, $40,000 in real estate fees, HOAs, being lost. That they should not have the right to stop you from checking the books on any HOA. They do not have the right to block the entrance to any area where you live. It's against the law. We do have offices that take care of these. Our office at FRAO is just a very small part of what you can go through. The 2 gentlemen that have been here today are part of the administration that are here to help you. So instead of complaining and telling us nothing works in Mexico, or, oh, this is Mexico, let's change things. There are more laws in Mexico, in my experience, than there are in the United States. The problem we have here, they're not implemented always. So let's be on top of this, please. Let that gentleman that's standing up, go. Yes.
If you're not paying your dues, and then all of a sudden you say, I want to start paying, but they've been giving you past due late charges, are they allowed to do that, Juan?
Yes.
Okay.
And how much? How much can they charge?
They establish in the bylaws or interreglamento. Usually they start or they set specifically what is your charge about that.
And which holds more weight? The reglamento or the bylaws? In other words, if the reglamento says 10% maximum and they charge 25%, which one is viable legally?
Legally, in that case, you cannot pass some amount because if you pass that amount, it is called a crime. It is usura. Usury. Yeah.
What recourse, if any, does an HOA have to collect monthly HOA fees from residents that refuse to pay an HOA fee?
Sorry, the question was, if you don't want to pay your dues, what right they have to collect from you? That was the question?
No.
What right they have, what was the question again?
The question was, what recourse does an HOA have for people who don't wanna?
Yeah, you can start a process in my office or in the civil court to collect those fees.
Thank you.
On the theme of transparency, we're just forming an association, and I'm the new president for 3 weeks. But I've created a website and I put on April, May, and June financial documents. And I was hearing about bank statements and things. What do you think about the idea? I'm trying to figure out how do I get information out to my owners? I can do email, but I don't have all the emails. A lot of them live in the States, and I thought a website might be a good way to provide transparency for this information. What's your opinion?
I think it is a good way to do it, but if we saw the state law obligates to you to get the financial in paper and get it in each unit.
Paper in each unit?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, that's what I wanted to know.
Let me just mention that this young lady here was one of the people that came to our office not long ago and had the problem about how to go about taking over, and now she's the president, and we tried to be helpful to her to actually do this, and we congratulate you to be chosen as the president. One of the things that we discussed there, because I see 2 other people here that have been in our office, was the control that normal people like us that are paying the condominium fees should have over, the right that we should have over how much every person is being paid. For example, I have a gentleman behind me that is telling me his security guards, he's also a president, are getting something like $200 to $2,500 a month for security guards. That in Mexico is an outrageous price. See? So we can give you a list of what security guards make, private ones and so forth, and now I think hers is that she had problem with the gardener. The gardener was collecting some outrageous price. Now she knows that they pay like $250. That's a reasonable price. But if a gardener makes $1,900 a month, somebody is getting a kickback somewhere. There is no doubt about it. So buyer beware, again, is extremely, extremely important.
Okay.
I have a question. Are they required to give you a monthly statement on HOA every month? And if they don't, say they don't do it for 2 years, is there valid for the overcharges and things like that the HOA can charge?
Those guys cannot overcharge anything. If they establishes a fine or whatever, has to be because you get the okay from the General Assembly. In the case, it occurs to me that when you establishes extraordinary fees, you have first to have the okay for the General Assembly and then start to charging. If those guys start to charging without that permission or that okay, it is invalid, it is illegal, and you can dispute that.
You need a statement every month?
It's the same thing, you can dispute it, and you have to ask it. Because if you don't ask your balance, once you get your balance, you have 8 days to make reviews about that statement.
But if the HOA doesn't give you this statement.
I know. That's why it is important to ask them.
The young man back here asked the question on from filing the complaint with your office to completion, approximately how long does that take?
3 days.
It is, as already said, it is an office of one person. And it is hard to accomplish the times of the state law says, or the state law marks.
Well, what's
Average?
Average, it is 2 or 3 months, average.
Let me just let you know that also civil court is a one-man show, kind of. So if you go to the civil court, they do not only take civil courts, but also like the other kind of criminal court. So that might take years and years.
Please allow me, we can only ask 4 more questions. We have to leave here at 12. So the 4 last ones, please show. Which one is it, Jim? That gentleman back there also. Let's start from here. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Go ahead, please.
You're talking about the condos, that the condo owners have an obligation to pay fees that are set by the condo association.
That's right.
Is the same thing true for homeowners who live within the jurisdiction of a civil association? Are they obligated to pay the fees that are set by their?
If you are a homeowner, you are obligated to pay that. You have to pay it, it doesn't matter what.
Travis, we have to pay. What?
Just one thing for, Paula just left.
No, he's right there.
No, Paula.
Oh, Paula.
Talking about putting it on the website, my first thought was a privacy issue. And perhaps you wouldn't want all of the, financial information about your association on the website, but if you did make it, there's Paula. If you want to set it up that way, which sounds great to me, but accessible only by members, and you have to have their email address. Okay. Or password, or password.
We have a small association, and we have 2 maintenance guys, but just to help them out, say on a monthly basis, once a month, what do we have to do if we bring someone else in for one day to do general maintenance? Do they become employees or independent contractors?
It is whatever that your administration wants to make a contract. If it is an independence, that so be it.
Do we need a factura for them?
That depends to your accountant, but usually yes.
But it depends on the account, isn't it?
Yeah, because you can also just, and government people will say, always get a factura. But in normal senses, that most of the people you're gonna have will not be able to give facturas, but they'll give receipts. But it's your the board's decision who to do that with. It's just, facturas is the best recommendation, but when you're using them one day a week or a month, then, and they do good work, and you trust them, then a invoice is fine.
So
Just a receipt.
they do not become employees then, if they show up like every Monday, are they employees?
Once a month.
So when it, yeah, no.
Okay.
As I mentioned before, let me say this. You always stand a lot stronger legally if you ask for a factura. It's very, very important to pay that extra money and get your factura. Please do it. You would not be sorry. You know what the difference between factura and receipt is, right? You don't. I was hoping to say I don't either, but I've learned the hard way. Receipt is just something that you exchange between the person and whoever's doing your work. They don't necessarily have to be legal people, and many of them are not registered. Many of the contractors, small contractors, are not registered with the government. A legal person with a factura is one that's registered with SAT, with the IRS, with a resale number and everything else that is legal. They would usually charge you anywhere between 8 to 16%, depending how they are registered with the new laws. Many people think that with the new government, our taxes are now 8%. That is not correct. As of now, depends on how you register with the federal government. If that company that you do business with is not registered with the federal government at 8%, they have the right to still charge you 16%. But most big businesses, like if you're buying a car, for example, the difference between 8 and 16 is so big that the guy wants your business. So he goes and registers with the federal government with 8%. So when you go to buy a $30,000 car, you're saving $6,000, $7,000 difference. The one question here.
I forgot. No. We moved here 6 years ago, and our ordeal had been going on, and it's still going on. I'm ready to jump off the bluff or shove some people off the bluff. That's where we are. But we have paid all of our HOA dues since the day we moved in. We bought a lot. We turned in house plans. They kept denying them. They kept saying that we were building a duplex when we weren't. Our builders said that we need to go down to Controller Bono and just take our plans down to them. We did in Ensenada. They approved it. They saw it as they defined it as a single family home. There's one electrical service, one of each of the utility services going to it. Baja Mar board didn't care. They said we're still in violation. They have us members in bad standing, and because of that, we can't vote. My wife was actually voted into office because we had the president of the board kicked out of office for misrepresenting himself down at Controller Bono in Ensenada. So we had them all kicked off the board. They voted my wife on the board and made her president for 1 week. And then they ran all their little games again, and she resigned, thinking that it was the best thing to do for the community because they were saying that she had no right to even be running for a board position because, again, member in bad standing. So how do you overcome this? No one's got any ideas.
Sorry to laugh, but that's pretty good.
You know, the way you overcome it is number one, by knowing the laws. Number two, having someone that can help you with the process of the law. And number three, which is very, very important, I've said this many, many times to people that come, by unity. If you're united, you can fight against any corruption that the HOAs give you.
I'm sorry, one last thing. They always get voted in again every year because they do it by way of their proxies. So they bring in a little staff of proxies, and they're all with their names on it. So,
well, he told you the time frames that they can be in office, so.
years. I heard that loud and clear.
And that's a state law.
And that's also for executive positions, because one person that we had kicked off voted himself back on and made himself the executive committee.
No, it's all before.
Still the same thing for years.
Every time we have a meeting about HOA laws and bylaws, and it depends on who's on the table is talking, it changes. January 17th, you had several lawyers, you had Urbana Control, you had some officials from the Rosarito office, and they clearly wrote this down and talked to everybody about it. Nonprofit condo association or condo regimes, nonprofit, the reserves cannot be over 8% or must be reinvested or returned to the owners. You also stated at that meeting that a member can, for a nonprofit AC, can come and go without penalty. If you sign on as an AC, you can be penalized if you quit making payments without notice at 8%. That's what we talked about in January. So how can we come to these meetings and actually get truth if every time we come, the notations are completely different?
Well, what changed?
Well, let me.
Wait, because we got.
Yeah, and
we've got a time constraint.
I understand that. I can explain what she's asking.
He's with me though.
I'm with her. Now listen, this is the issue. I'm going to give you guys a hand here with this. You have scenarios that represent different groups here.
Yeah.
There are a lot of people here that are in different scenarios, okay? Yeah. Some people are under AC law. Some people are under condo law. Some people are debating public roads versus the rights of a condo and its ability to provide consequences. You have literally different scenarios. One of our guys here just recently asked you a very vague question, which you responded, Juan, yes to. But the question was actually quite ridiculous. It was, you didn't even state it properly. And I'm really irritated at this. This stuff would go away if you guys would define the scenarios under which you're answering these questions, okay? not every answer applies to every scenario. And that's the problem, is that people here don't see that. Now, here's what, if you had a whiteboard on here, and I'll be quiet in just a second, sir. If you had a whiteboard that defined these scenarios and provided the answers to each question, we could all take a look and go, oh, okay, that's my question, that's my answer.
But you've always been told, everyone's told, where to go get additional information. There was 90-some plus people here today, and some people live in HOAs, some people live in condominiums, some people live in townhomes, and they're trying to answer those questions best you can.
Of course, we
But
understand.
Alex made the point, the best thing you all can do is take the information that you receive here, but then follow up by getting exactly for what your needs are. But this is just generality, so all examples don't apply to everybody, because some of you started talking HOA condos and stuff, but then some people get confused. But take this kind of information and then take the information you get and then go follow up either with Alex's group or here with Juan to get the correct information for your specific thing.
Well, we've done that too, and when we stepped into the offices, it depends on who you talk to. Marco has done a pretty good job, and he's pretty much stayed with what we've been read in the law, and given us plenty of information that way. But his hand seems to be tied, and so as soon as it seems like he gives up at this point, we've got nobody else but lawyers to go to. We go civilly, we win the case, and then guess what? We're still on ground zero.
Right.
Well, except I would appreciate any comments that the panel makes because it's going to be helpful. It may not be completely helpful, but I would be concerned on the questions that they raised that they now become inhibited or concerned about how specific their answer has to be, that we're not just getting some general overall advice, free I might add, and very good I might add, that is very beneficial. So keep doing what you're doing. I think you're doing fine.
Thanks, Mark. I would take the information you get and follow up. There's ways of getting the laws. There's even English versions of almost everything. And most of the people at City Hall in these types of departments speak English. So some of it you're going to end up having to go through a lawyer because of the fact that some of you have really been screwed.
Again, we can't all give it to you because you're a very charming lady always. And thanks again for your donation. No, go ahead, ask your question.
Would you please put your contact information on the FRAO Facebook page so people here know how to get a hold of you?
Me personally? I'm pretty sure it's on FRAO, or address, or telephone. Gabby is always available. Believe me, this young lady, the two of us open our office about 7:20, 7:30 in the morning maximum. We start that early. And oftentimes, we are there until 5, 6 o'clock, or some of you have my number that call me at night, give me your ideas, and I do appreciate most of them. Look, one of the problems that we've had, and I'm trying to push it through, I've already spoken with some people with the new government that's coming, is the system of real estate agents. In the United States, as you know, you have to go to several classes before you can be licensed. And if any of you have experience in that, you would know how many, almost 100 questions you have to answer. You have to go to many classes to be aware of the real estate laws. So knowing that is something that apparently our people here do not really want to obey them. A couple of years ago, they did do something like an association with Mr. Gustavo. I think he's the chair of that. But there is no real testing, there is no real knowledge, no real classes that I know of. So this is something that we need to do. We need to talk to them again, And I don't think there is enough time to do it with this government, but it's a beginning, we can mention it. But I've already contacted quite a few of the future people that are coming, and they are 100% with this idea that there should be some kind of control. What can I say but to say thanks to all of you. I'm glad you all came. As you can see, our sessions now are 70, 80, 90 or more people. That means we are trying to do, and so we're trying to be more in touch with the needs of our community. And we'll always be here. As I said, either I'll be sitting here or I'll be sitting there, but I'll be always there.
Thank you for watching our video. If you're planning on buying real estate in the Rosarito Beach area, make sure to give us a call. Have a great day, everybody.